And to be fair, I brought this up a lot. So unsettling for me, and he would go on trips, and I've told people this on my channel. I would tear my fingernails off for days. I wouldn't sleep. I would just like sit there freaking out because if you think about it, he couldn't have his phone. So all I have is my imagination. And he's gone for 5 days, and I'm sitting here waiting for him to come home, knowing what's going on. So he would come home, and I would, find myself asking a million questions. I would find myself poking at him, going, "How was that? Who'd you sleep with? What'd you do?" And he would just go, "Stop with this. This is," and so real quickly, this started to turn into this is all in your mind. Do you hear yourself? You're absolutely crazy. You're absolutely nuts. This is all in your head. You sound like a crazy person. You need therapy. So then it turned into a game of if I would bring up the jesters in our marriage, he started saying, "No more jester talk in this house. No more jester talk. You will never talk about this again." So he made these rules. And if I talked about it, I would go to the store. I would go to buy groceries or anything. I'd go to Costco. And if I violated the rule, I would go to the store and I would go to pay. And the cashier would say, "I'm sorry, your credit card is declined." And I would go, "What?" And then I came home one day and he goes, "You didn't like that, did you? Well, if you keep talking about the jesters, you won't be able to go shopping or buy anything. So if you stay in line, if you're obedient," and he would say, "If you obey the rules of this house," and at some points he would take away my car keys so I couldn't leave. He would do things to punish me. So it got worse and worse. It got more and more abusive. And I'm pointing that out because I knew I was in a really tough situation there. I have, by the way, a child. He was 9 when we got married. He's 15 now. So I knew I was stuck. And at one point, my husband at the time said, "If you don't stop talking about this, do you want something to happen to you? Something could happen to you." And that's when it really turned for me. And I remember we were in our bedroom when he said it. And I said, "What does that mean? What are you saying to me? What are you threatening me with?" And he said, "Do you think," it was really creepy the way he said it. He said, "Do you think you're the first wife to find out about this?" He said, do you think that we've been around 100 years and you're the first wife to find out?" He said, "You will be silenced." And so at that point, I had one close friend that I shared everything with. I shared everything I had taken pictures of. I shared all the audios that I had recorded. And I said, "If something happens to me, I need you to sing. I need you to put this everywhere, put it out in every media outlet you can," because I couldn't leave. I started building a file of stuff. I just started recording him under the table. I started doing everything I could to prove that I wasn't crazy, because daily he was saying to me, "You're honey." And he would say to me, I say this all the time. It would drive me nuts. No one's ever said this to me. I'd never heard it before. He would say, when I would bring it up, he'd go, "Sweetheart, do you realize your thoughts are not within reality? Your thoughts aren't in reality. And that's okay." He'd go, "That's okay. You grew up in a cult. You don't have any common sense, but your thoughts are not in reality." And I would go, "Jeff, I have pictures of this stuff. Like, I know you're trying to break me. You're not going to do that." And he'd go, "You don't have pictures of anything. You're nuts." And so years went on of that. And I mean, years. And every trip he took, it just kept building and building. And this was no longer a marriage. And I just kept taking all the pictures of evidence and everything I possibly could in case that happened. And so that's where we are now.
So, and just real quickly on this one, Bach, as far as ideology and philosophy apart from debauchery, the theory goes something like this. All of the other appendant bodies that you're going to be associated with have a goal of doing fantastic things. This is about brotherhood. It's about letting your hair down, and it's about mirth. It's about laughter. It's about getting back to how you were at school, boys. So the amount of dick jokes and fart, grab ass stuff, it really is very much like a fraternity where people just acting like young jackasses. And you know what? There's no harm in that. The harm is that the people that are servicing these people don't have other jobs, don't have other lives. And in many cases, this is generational. right? There's grandma, mom, and granddaughter, and they're all hooking for the jesters. That's an issue, right? These are the things but as far as their ideology goes, they do this thing that they call the book of the play. And it is, in theory, having to do with Shakespeare and Shakespeare's death or whatever. It's just a way that they have of keeping this this tax-free status that they have. They're keeping the history of the jesters and all of that BS alive. It's just a way to use their tax dollars to party. You know my history. I did a lot of partying. I spent that kind of cash too, but I didn't get to do it tax-free, which is a little disturbing.
They are tax exempt. That's right.
Yeah, they are absolutely tax exempt. And there was one or two things here that I starred that I wanted to do. This is an interesting question. Do they also racially discriminate against the women that they pick? I bet they are hypocritical that way. I've never seen a black gesturette. Have you?
No.
I have not. I've also never seen a Mexican gesturette, but I don't have access to 190 courts, right? We've what we know of as of yet, I've not seen this. They seem to be racist.
I've not seen any Asian or Hispanic or.
I have not either. They've all been they have all been white women. And they say a Billiken is a golem. I think that that's probably about right. And Galen says, and I think that this is really key to talk about. Financial abuse and control is terrifying. And this is standard operating procedure to the point that you can't believe it's coincidental. These guys must be told. It is so pervasive. It's the story we hear over and over and over again. It's what they tried to do to you, right? Sit you at home, give you your card. You can go out and go have lunch with your friends, and you can go get your nails done, and you can go shopping, and you can do all this. But if you bring up the jesters, I'm going to turn your card off. I'm going to take away your nice car. And that kind of abuse and financial controlling it's terrifying for people. You get yourself into a position you can't get out of.
Yeah, I mean, even just thinking back about it, talking about it, it is. I was in such. I mean, I was strong, but I really was in a state of fear. It seemed like every year, things would get worse and worse. Things would get more and more. What I mean by worse and worse, just more and more threatening, intimidating. Just. I feel like everything was closing in on me each year that went by, like just my freedom. I started to feel he tracked my phone everywhere I went. Everywhere I went, he would track my phone. If I wanted to go somewhere, he'd say, well, I'll go with you. He was just it started to get more and more. I think he was worried about how much I knew and who I was talking to. So he wanted to keep me at home. And if I left the house, he wanted to go with me.
Right. So here's the difference. Every single night in the United States of America, and I'm sure wherever you live as well, there are thousands of clubs across the United States where people go in and have sex with one another in public. They can do it with strangers. They can swap their wives. They can do whatever they want. And if they want to gamble and have a good time and go to a casino at the same time, maybe they could hit Vegas. Tons of sex clubs in Vegas. And nothing is wrong with any of that if that's how you want to live. The difference is this. These men are recruiting women to fly across state lines to put into jobs where they have no other recourse but to continue to do what they do. Their entire life, their mortgage payments, everything depends on these men, of whom they must sleep with all of them if these men ask. They're not picking their clients. They're not doing any of these things. Now, the men don't wear condoms, but the women have to be tested weekly. The hypocrisy and the way that these women are treated is the problem.
And that's what
Go ahead.
I was told that by my husband at the time. So I know some people are going to, how do you know that, Tommy? I was told that at the time. I mean, I asked every question under the sun, guys. Over these years, I wanted to know everything. I asked him about using protection, and he said, we don't use condoms. He said that there are a couple jester doctors that check the women every party, and they have to come with papers. And that's what I was told, that they have to show up with their papers, that they were checked by a couple of the jester doctors to make sure everything's clean.
And all of the stories that have come out from other women in other courts matches that. They're very proud of the fact that these women are tested, and they're very proud of the fact that they do not have to wear condoms. makes them pleased. But again, people, if this was just a matter of people going out, I'm not a prude. I don't care what people do. And I used to live in Nevada. There's legal prostitution everywhere. When a woman is born into prostitution, that is the family business, we have an issue. And the fact that we have people like Gus Bilrakis, representative from Florida, who stands in the halls of our government to talk about human tea and to talk about the prostitution that is being caused by people coming across the border. What's up with that? Right? How is it that goes on? And we have lawyers and we have judges and we have all of these people who take an oath to and swear allegiance to this country, but they've already sworn allegiance to a bunch of guys who cheat on their wives and brag about it, right?
And you have said, I didn't know this to be true until you told me that, of course, presidents, and we've got presidents that, this is a particular Kansas City club. It's called the Truman Club, the President's Court. That Harry Truman was a jester. Who's the other one? There was another president apparently.
Gerald Ford.
Okay. But not just presidents, people in office like that. Judges, you told me, have to swear that they are not a part. I want to be clear. They're not a part of secret societies. Is that correct?
They ask you if you've ever pledged allegiance to anybody else, is what they ask. So secret societies or anything else, you're pledging allegiance to, the nation that you're working for. Have you ever done this to anybody else? And, a secret society is a real issue as far as that goes. Right. It goes directly against. John Wayne was absolutely a jester. That's not a myth. That's researchable. Ronald Reagan was not a jester. That is a myth. It gets printed a lot on the internet, but I chased that down and there's absolutely, even the jesters don't claim.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I would have heard that one.
Yeah. There's a lot of people there's a lot of places where you can go and find tons of names, but then when you actually try to research it, Gerald Ford seems to continue to come back. Definitely Truman. He's probably the most famous of all of the jesters. But there's also, what's the name of the country and Western singer that Paisley?
Brad Paisley.
Brad Paisley. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Is one as well. Yeah. What is mirth?
Sarah.
Mirth is joy and merriment and laughter and all things fun. Mirth is what we try to create when we have these shows and talk to you for the most part, right? Mirth is just people having a good time. And, there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, there's also nothing wrong with women coming in and taking their clothes off if they're compensated well and they're happy doing what they're doing and the guys aren't touching them and groping them and they're not forced into doing things they don't want to do. You understand I'm not a prude and that this has nothing to do with me trying to regulate someone's sex life. Knock yourself out, right? That's a great question, isn't it?
The Jester's Creed.
How do they pay for this BS? Well, the first thing they're going to do is every single person in that court has to pay annual dues. Those annual dues go into the coffers of this. Of the 190 of these that I have looked at, not one reported spending less than 120 grand annually on partying. So they bring this cash in tax-free and then they go out and spend it to throw these huge and elaborate parties. And the prostitutes come in and usually one entire floor of the hotel is rented out.
There he is. The President's Court.
Yeah, Harold S. Truman.
I didn't mean to cut you off,
but
I wondered if I should read the Jester's Creed. By the way, guys, so I have a bunch of these books that were some of my husband's. These are top secret, these books. I've got different ones, and these have, and I won't show what's inside as far as that goes. These have printed names. So it has printed pictures, their first, last name, date of birth, wife's name, wife's date of birth, home phone, cell phone, address, and where they work, and email. So really genius. Like, for instance, the Kansas City big judge, that's a Kansas City judge, he's in here. This also is their little thing that's on the back of every book. This is their motto when they come and go to parties. I am a jester. What I see here, what I hear here shall stay here when I leave here. Nothing to question there.
Nothing weird here. Corn Pope asked a great question. Not questioning this at all, a little behind, but I'm pretty sure it was you guys that showed a picture of a boat with like 7 young women in it and a few old men, and the women looked Asian. That's a great point. Those are not jester girls, which is what we were talking about, hired prostitutes. Those girls in the boat were from Brazil. And that was from a jester trip where this is what I was talking about earlier in the show, where allegedly they hired girls as young as 13 to come on board and work as maids and cooks. And the maids and cooks ended up getting very, very loaded on chemicals and alcohol. And then they were, they were passed around, so to speak. They've been going back apparently year after year, going to the same places, hiring the same people, whatever. But as far as the prostitutes who are on staff, the ones that are jesterettes, I've never seen one that wasn't white. It's a great question, though.
That's right. I was going to read the Jester's Creed.
Please do.
This is in their book, of course. There's all kinds of Jester's Toast here. Jester's Creed. And Tracy says, aren't they all part of Bohemian Grove?
That's so. If anyone doesn't know what that question is, let me see. The Bohemian Grove is a group of people, a lot of them politicians.